little filmy.
Mm-hmm. It's going, and we're back. And I guess that's how we start every video, which is awesome. But yes, we're back, and this is episode 4. And we were really, really inspired after a video we saw released yesterday.
Which we had filmed months ago, hadn't seen. So it's like a video featuring us and our coming home story as part of a larger campaign that the city of Dryden is running. But so we filmed it, and we're just kind of sitting here anticipating like when this thing was going to drop. I'd completely forgotten anything I'd said, so I was nervous about what it was going to be. But it turned out so well. The guys crushed it.
Trevor Goche, Blank Studios, doing the MyTrail campaign for the city of Dryden, featuring local people like ourselves who are intending on or have built a life here in Dryden. And so all walks of life, all types of different people, doing such an amazing job of featuring them and their views all in a way that really highlights Dryden as somewhere you want to be. We know we want to be here. We didn't always think that. And so I think with the release of the video, we are inspired to reiterate the messages within the video in a longer form, more of a storytelling kind of way. And yeah, as you said, when we were waiting for the video to come out, it's like, well, did we speak well? Right? That's anytime we do anything. Did I represent myself well? Did I get the right words out? Did I make the right impression? And I think it was a 45-minute long, maybe an hour-long interview that was condensed down to the 6 minutes.
Just under, yeah. And
yeah, it has me very excited about our decision to be here. But we didn't always want to be here. And so we are now here today going to tell a story of present us, past us together, past us separate. What led us to what we have done together, and then now where we are, and then a future piece as to what we intend on doing and where we look to go, which I think is a fun reflective exercise, creative exercise, goal-setting exercise.
Perhaps.
And, well, I mean, we're well-versed in discussions as to what our plans are.
Yeah.
We're both very much in the same boat that we are doing this together. And, yeah, we do everything together. And so here we are. And where do we kick this thing off?
Well, do you want to go back to the past? Do we want to start like our how we met story?
Let's start with the how we met story, and then yeah, let's start with that. Do you want to start it, or do I start it? How do we volley this back and forth?
Okay, I'll start, and then you can jump in with anything I meet or miss.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, Kevin and I both initially moved back to Dryden during COVID. He was forced home, would you say forced, when your season was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved home because Toronto was just not a fun place to be, early days of the pandemic, and it was kind of advised that if, you wanted to be in Dryden, go now, because at that point it wasn't clear on, our highway's going to be closed down. Are you going to have the opportunity to get out of here later? So, just made it happen quite quickly. But yeah, so we both came back at that time and didn't start dating right away by any means. We actually were friends for months and months before we kind of realized that there was something there.
I got to jump in to say that I was friends with Hope's brothers in high school, and Hope would have been onward to Toronto. I didn't spend much of my high school days in Dryden either. I was gone as well, and so we were both gone on our separate adventures. And it would be when I returned home that I'd see your brothers maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I refer to the relationship I had with your brothers as kind of
like friends of
yeah,
friends?
friends of friends, indirect friends.
Indirect
Friends was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Your brothers would be with the people that I would arrange to hang out with when I was home for my limited time stays. And so then at some point in COVID, there was a realization like, hey, Kev's around, and he's like around. We should have him over more. And so huge credit to Morgan's partner for making that recommendation. And then Morgan and I started hanging out, and of course you guys have the home gym, which all the gyms were closed, and so I was trying to stay in shape for an eventual potential return at playing hockey. And it was in that period when we connected. We started seeing each other, hanging out, both very much on the same stuff. I think you know what I mean by that. And just both very much getting into our personal development journeys, becoming interested in it, being concerned about others around us, trying to be of service for those around us. And so I think we were able to really connect on where we were both similarly at, as well as where we were similarly looking to be for the people closest to us and beyond.
Yeah, noticing like a lot of connection, a lot of alignment, just like good feels between the two of us, you know, regardless of what our status was at that time.
And so then in our hangs, in our discussions, it seemed as though everyone else around us knew exactly what was happening. Meanwhile, we did not. And so by the time we realized, and I remember realizing, it was a question you posed to me where you said, what are you looking for in a partner? And my automatic was you. And I didn't say that at the time. I was, somebody who, and who knows what I said, but that's what I was kind of choking on as you asked that. It really, wasn't something that I expected, but something that was true, and something that then I would voice to you. And there was very much like, are we kidding ourselves here? At least that's the way I describe it. And by the time we brought that forward to our families around us, oh, finally, right? Like, you're only telling us now? We only knew now, right? Like, it was something that, would be referred to as like a slow burn, and something really beautiful in that, and taking the appropriate time. And you speak best to how that's very different than any other relationship you've ever come into.
Definitely. Well, and I'll say I had my own kind of moment, I guess, of realization in terms of like, there's something really special here. It was, I don't know the exact timeline of like when you had your moment, when I had my moment, but I think for me, I just remember it was like after we'd been working on at one point we were like renovating a house, my family, and Kev was helping with that from time to time, and we'd just spent the day doing that. And then you and I came back to the house after, to like this house after, and I was opening up to you, talking to you about just like something that I was struggling with. And at that time in my life, I could be quite guarded. I didn't, and I can still be this way where I don't always tell people what's going on with me if it's not great. I think that's like the perfectionist side of me, that just anything bad that's happening, I keep to myself so nobody ever has to know. But I was opening up to you, and that felt really vulnerable, but like good. And I remember it was something, I don't know how to describe it. It was just something about the way that you were like looking at me and really listening to me. And I just remember too having like a choked up moment, because in my head I was having this like, oh my God, like I'm in love with this guy. But it went from like, oh, we're friends, like this is so nice, to like, holy shit, like how have I not like felt this, seen this? It felt like a rush. And then, I don't know, I feel like it was like a week after that or something that you like wrote me that letter in the card, and I was just like, oh, it just felt like so good, so right, really good timing. But that, going back to what you were saying, that was different for me because, I don't know, I feel like so often when you get into relationships, romantic relationships, it can just happen in this very, like, I don't know, there's a focus on seduction, there's the games, it happens pretty fast, there's like the dating, when for us, it was just this like, oh, we're just hanging out slowly forever. It was so organic.
She's just in my bubble, it's fine.
We're just in each other's bubble, what a great guy. And then, but this like, yeah, just slow, organic, really getting to know each other with no pressure in terms of any form of intimacy or anything like that. It was just so chill and nice. And so then by the time that, yeah, I'm like at this place where it's like, whoa, I really have feelings for this person, I just felt so comfortable with you. Like, I felt like I already knew you, knew your heart. Of course, like, I continue to get to know you every day still, but yeah, I just felt so comfortable. And that was just super different for me in terms of how we got together, and I'm so grateful for it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I feel really, really lucky.
Totally different than any other situation I've been in. Again, the games you speak to, the seduction, the chase, the, you know, whatever you want to call it, whatever else this sphere has to offer. This was not that. And so by the time we had these realizations, where we became romantically interested, you know, it wasn't a game. It was serious, and it was all in, and now we are all in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just
cool.
very, very cool, and very, very grateful. And you know, COVID was different for everyone in their own different ways. Good things and bad things came of it for many people, but it was that forced us both to be in Dryden reluctantly, which is against current feelings about the thing, to be back at home, this place we fought to escape, this place that we thought we'd never be back to. Now we're both back out of, you know, at least for me, I was back because I didn't have a hockey team to play for anymore. Our season was canceled, and so where do you go? Go to this country where the laws and the rules are kind of lax. Yeah, this is gonna be loose. And I thought, no, that's a bad idea. Friends did do that. I did have an offer to go play in Poland. Shout out to Goody for lining that up. Darce was there too.
Oh yeah.
And you know, the fear was leave, go to Poland, and then lose your job again, and then
just be back,
be stuck or stranded cross border with restricted border. Who knows? Like, what does this look like? And so it was important to me to be close to home during COVID, to make sure that I was closest to the people that mattered most. And I guess that was where I started prioritizing my family over my job. And then it was then when we came into connection, and you yourself were from Toronto, reluctantly at home. And so very much like, dude, same. Like, we were both in a very similar situation, which allowed us to meet and connect. But then we had aspirations as to what was going to happen next. And then, because we were connected, it was a question as to whether or not we were going to do it together. I wanted to go return to the UK. I was hoping that that was possible, so long as I remained in shape and that the situation became better, the storm passed. And you had previously lived in the UK for 2 years. So we had that in common. And while I was excited to go, potentially you were sitting there, I remember you saying, I've always imagined returning back.
I loved when I lived in London in like 2012 to 2014. And I just felt so good there when I was there. So I felt like at that time the most myself I'd ever felt. And so I'd often thought about going back, just pursuing that feeling again, seeing if it was still there. And I'd mentioned that to Kev. I don't know. We weren't dating at the time when we had that conversation, but there was one night before, this is like sidebar, but before we started dating, that we each we had like a Google Maps hangout. Do you remember this? Where you like took me around Belfast through Google Maps.
Yeah,
You were like,
yeah.
we walk over the bridge and this is where we go. And
Every night.
Every night.
Oh,
And I did the same thing for where I was living in London, and I just thought that was so cool. But that's, I think, the night that we shared that. So yeah. Anyway, I cut you off. You're telling that story.
So it did get to a point where I was in negotiations. I was in talks. It was going to happen.
And I'm kind of sitting there being like, what's going to come of this?
Mm-hmm.
Also being like, if this guy asks me to go with him, what am I going to say? Because at that point, we'd like known each other for a while, but we'd only been dating for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Like not a super long time.
By the time we would have left, it would have been, 5-6 months?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Counting on fingers. Yeah, and so then it got real. And that, there are steps of realness that occur when you are becoming serious with a partner, but moving to another country to place yourself in an environment unlike you've ever placed yourself before.
Oh, yeah.
Amongst a population of people, specifically the hockey community, that you'd never seen. That is very subject to stereotypes. There are stereotypes for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if there was a way to summarize what I tried to tell you was that it's no longer junior hockey, right? We are grown men. We are with partners. We are mature. We do enjoy drinks. We do have a lot of spare time. What we do with our spare time is individual to each of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, describe your hesitancies.
Well, I feel like my hesitancies were very rational. I'm like, okay, so let me play this out. I'm going to move across the world with this guy who is great, but I've only been seeing for, not a super long time. All of the what ifs, what if we break up? Like, what will I do? How will I get home? Like, where will I go? Like, I have no friends there. I have no family. Like, I have nothing there except for this guy. And then not only that, I'm going to be immersed in this hockey culture, which I have never been interested in. Like, I don't watch the sport. Going across the world, gonna be in this culture, I just didn't know what I was in for. And I think a lot of people know how scary that like fear of the unknown is, especially then to imagine that I'm doing it in like early days of our relationship. But I don't know, there was another really big part of me that was like, well, I'm not gonna end this relationship, like this is so good. And even if I get over there and everything goes to absolute shit, I have a credit card and I can get myself to an airport and I'll just come home. Like, at least I tried, at least, I gave it my all. And I think, by the time we got into this relationship, I'd done a lot of work on myself to be like, when I get into another relationship, I'm going to really be all in. And so this was a good opportunity for me to practice that. And it was the best decision ever. So it all worked out.
Looking back, I didn't know that when we went, I was a season and a 10th, a 12th. I got to play 0 of
couple games.
We went back for a second year that I did not get to play very much hockey in. But nevertheless, I didn't know when we left how many years of playing I had remaining. and I'm glad that I got to share that with you.
Oh man, me too.
I'm so glad that I didn't have such a big part of my life happen and then meet you, so that I can just talk about it or reminisce, or have been in situations that because I was there alone in, I have nobody that like truly understands me.
Yeah.
That's especially relevant for how things went with my retirement. I don't know what I would have done without you, because it was one of the hardest things ever, the hardest things to navigate. And so to have the support of my teammates throughout that, as well as yourself, for you and they to have my backs, as well as the fan base in Belfast, like, man. But so then year one, I would say, of my professional hockey playing time was among the classiest, best team I've ever played for. Big happy family, no clicky BS, no drama. Very, it's exactly what I wanted to be able to show you while I was saying, trust me, it's fine. Meanwhile, when you show up to play for a new hockey team every season, it is an absolute dice roll as to the quality of people you have around and the cohesiveness and the morale and whether or not you're winning, all these different things. And to be able to have shown you that team, to have met my friends and roommates and all the people who I'd spent so much time around and with.
And who he'd talked about for like a year.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm getting to put faces to names. And
But then things happened. And I mean, we have great memories to look back on. You got to celebrate a league title on the ice with my jersey on while I was like
in the hospital, in surgery.
Yeah.
I'm just like, woo! Kev's getting his actual nut operated on.
I lost part of me, a very important part of me.
I figured it was okay me saying.
Absolutely. You can read the full blog post. It's out there. The whole story is hilarious. Yeah. We can laugh at it now. Scary at the moment. Talk about that experience and how, because again, I'm trying to show you my life. I'm trying to show you why I played the game. I'm trying to show you the experiences I've had, and I don't know that if we don't win, right, because that's why you play, that you would have got to feel the extent of what it's, and it's a huge high is basically what we're chasing. We're hoping for this one huge high. We work our asses off all season long so that we can, like, I don't know, just
pop bottles,
like black out. You know, like like I've been very fortunate to win many different trophies at many different phases. If you were to quiz me on the games, how they went, who we played, how many of this or that, right? I don't think I'd have a good answer for you by the end of it. People would be like, were you even there? I'd be like, dude, like, I don't know, like, yeah, but it's like, it's blended with the rest of my career and the other games that are all kind of the same, just with different circumstances. And this one, we just got to like party super hard. You know, it's interesting. I think back to like the wins and the celebrations and the whole reason we do it. And a big thing they tell you is like, nobody can take this away from you. You'll never forget this. And I am sitting here like, I don't know that I truly remember it either. I just know that it was like the highest high ever. And that that's why you do it, right? So you can have that like season ending, we're better than everyone, like hurrah, right? Like it's like very intense.
Yeah.
I don't know
if I ever experienced the high that you're talking about, because I'm not the one doing it. You know, I did develop like such a love of the game, not so much of the game, of watching at least you guys play, because it was just so fun. You know, you walk in there, the atmosphere is great, there's a light show, there's fire. You're like, whoa, multiple times a week. Like, so fun. And yeah, the fact that in that season there was a lot of winning, that was always so cool to go down on the ice and just like hug all of you guys and celebrate, knowing that you were just like, you know, had achieved this thing that you'd worked really hard for. Mm-hmm. It's super special. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that I had the same like, wow, like we did it, but I definitely get it. Like from, I don't know, I can imagine how cool it must be to be you guys, and it's also so cool to be your like partner when that's happening, because there's just a sense of like pride and celebration that you're like, that's my boyfriend, and like him and all of his friends just did this cool thing. Like it's just nice. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. But my whole experience, especially that year, was just like, this is so much fun. The people are so fucking cool. I met so many amazing people. The girlfriends, the best. Like, these girls I have so much love for. Yeah, and the guys too. Like, I don't know. We just have some really cool friendships now as a result of that time. And I'm, crazy grateful for that experience, and very glad I said yes.
I'm glad you got to see it. I can't reiterate that enough. Mm-hmm. Don't know where I'd be if I didn't have somebody that understood it or understood me because of it. And but it had to come to an end. And it having to come to an end was another point of pivot, change. What happens next? What do we do? Mm-hmm. Do we flee home? We've got things going on here. Personal Best is alive and well. We're really embedded in the Belfast communities. We are trying to become even more so. There are things and pursuits that aren't finished despite the hockey being over. Mm-hmm. And so that is the summary of why we stayed beyond the time of playing. Mm-hmm.
But that felt like a really chaotic time, because it's like, having to just make a really rushed big decision. Mm-hmm. Anytime that you're put into that scenario, whether you're like trying to buy a house in a like super competitive market, or like, you know, just anytime that you're having to make a really big decision really fast, it feels like, oh, can I just catch my breath for a second? And when that was going on for you, it felt like we had to figure things out fast, and that was stressful. So ultimately the choice to just stay in Belfast and like collect ourselves felt like the right play at the time, and I think it was. Mm-hmm.
Well, and very chaotic time for both of us for many different reasons that we can spare the details or dive right into.
10-hour video.
But we were very much together in the time of going through tensions and just tough times, tough decision making times, tough reflective times, all kinds of different things to contend with.
Yeah, both of us individually dealing with shit. But in a weird way, it's like, well, at least we have each other. At least like we were both kind of going through similar experiences, different experiences, but similar in some ways, and dealing with conflict in our lives in some ways. And so at least we could like, go through that together, talk about it, super empathize with each other and how stressed, we both were. And so it sucks, but at least we were in the mud together.
And when you're in the mud, you got to find your way out. And when you're looking for a way out, you got to look at what you've got and what you can do. And I think we did a really good job of doing that. We made the primary focus personal best. We made an honest effort at that, doing all kinds of different cool things. Going to Nottingham and handing out 1,500 of this wristband. To promote the brand and, talk about an exercise in pitching and selling.
Kev would have like groups of people around him, like 20 people, and he's telling the story of Personal Best, introducing himself, and a lot of people knew who you were because they were fans of you, you know, you as a hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just so cool for him to be like, yeah, so not hockey, this, and everyone be like, cool, like really excited about the message, and yeah, that was a super cool thing that we did.
Yeah. Hey, I've got something for you. What is it? This is my company, and this is what we do, or I don't know. I don't even know what we do. We do a lot of different things. Just take
We're
the bracelet.
figuring it out.
Check us out online, and yeah, I had my lines dialed.
Yeah. It was just a big raising awareness thing, and trying to raise awareness about what personal best was within the hockey community that extended Belfast.
Right. Yeah. Let's go league wide. Let's take this thing league wide. Yeah. Was the thinking there.
So good.
And so cool to meet people who you see all the time who have traveled. I also remember a situation, you know, the truth is that you can be a fan without knowing the people or following people online or being part of the online community. And I won't forget, you know, approaching somebody in a Belfast Giants jersey and then saying, you know what this is? And they're like, no. Do you know who I am? No. I'm like, well, like, my name is, and I just retired, and this is what I'm doing now, and like, this is me taking an honest shot at trying to raise awareness, and like, wow, I did not expect that, and that's very, very cool. Here you go. But yeah, that among so many other moments throughout that weekend.
Just seeing the same people all the time. Who were those guys that every time we would see them, they'd be like, ah, like yelling at us? Yeah. It just became like comical, so it was just such a fun
right. It's a Nottingham Panthers jersey guy with shades on, spilling his beer. People get drunk at this weekend.
Boy.
It was by the end of the days after the second games, it was like, well, this feels like post-bar. Yeah. Except people were then going to the bar. It's just
and we'd been sober the whole time. We're just handing out wristbands. Exhausted.
Yeah. Awesome time.
Yeah. But we did a lot of cool stuff. It was cool because our only objective was like, okay, this just has to keep us afloat. We just have to be making like,
enough money for rent.
Yeah, some kind of an income. And and we'll be good to go. And so we just got super creative with what that could look like different merchandise ideas, different service ideas. You launched an online stick handling program, which then like transformed into a in-person stick handling, like coaching thing. Yeah, it was just a lot of different things, and we just got to have a lot of fun with it.
We got connected with the Love Belfast folks, who we negotiated an amazing deal with. They pretty much saved and extended our Belfast time with what they were able to offer us and what we were able to exchange, so that we could. Andrew and Inga at Love Belfast. Shout out to them. We were able to make content for them, for the page, and the creative license to just like, it's Love Belfast. Like, just do anything in Belfast. Like, go highlight the games, go check it out.
So we got to go around to all these different local businesses and create content for them, which was so awesome, because then we're going into neighborhoods that we maybe wouldn't have visited before, or restaurants. We get to like give them this awesome platform and create a really cool reel for them. It just allowed us to like immerse ourselves in like, we live here, like we love this place, we're celebrating this place on a whole level that extended beyond hockey. So yeah, that was such a cool thing that happened.
Unreal. But so then, in spite of all the cool stuff we got to do, and there's this mix of like, it's a great time, but it's also a tough time, and we're trying to figure things out, and we're not quite sure. We came home for a month, and in that month, there was a conversation that summarized was basically, what are we doing in Belfast?
Yeah.
We were talking about where we were at, what we wanted to do next. You know, we are getting to a period of our lives where we are trying to grow roots, which we hadn't had in a long time, given where we were and where our jobs took us, and that we were ready to do whatever, and that we weren't overly committed to any particular thing, and that's fun and fine and well, which in this video that City of Dryden just released,
Mm-hmm.
the MyTrail Campaign, Trevor Goche,
Mm-hmm.
again, shout out Trevor, is very contrasting to how we used to be. And I think that's why we're so inspired to reflect here today
Mm-hmm.
as to, we used to love running around. We used to love going to the big cities and all the fast-paced things, and you know, just going fast is kind of the way I would describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we were at home for this month to realize, like, yeah, we love going fast. We have loved going fast, but what do we really want?
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided then that we would go back to Belfast, tie things up. We kind of set a timeline for when we would return home. And yeah, the goal then was basically to go back to Belfast, go hard, go hard for the summer on the stick handling and shooting. That didn't happen. We didn't do a single session upon arriving back. Things fell through, and that's the end of that story. And what an indication of, like, okay, it's time to go.
It's time. Yeah, it just got to a point where I especially was feeling confused, because it was like, okay, we're talking about, you know, settling down. We're talking about having a family, da da da. While at the same time, we're living this like lifestyle on the other side of the world. And that was like fine, but then it just reached a point where it was like, so like, how's this gonna work? And at what point are we gonna actually like sit down and figure this out and set a timeline? And I think, you know, putting a bit of pressure on us both to be like, let's figure this out. But then, you know, when that happens, fears start to surface, like, oh shit, we're actually gonna do it. And everything, yeah, that comes along with that really surfaced for us both in different ways pretty hard. And so it meant like having a lot of tough conversations, and yeah, finding a timeline, and like being like, hey, we're gonna move home, like was like really, you know, intense and for both of us. So I don't know if you want to speak to how that felt for you.
Well, there's no doubt that the stay in Belfast was both the ability to pursue other things, but on the other hand, it was also delaying retirement. It was staying where you knew that there were fans and people that knew you, and you got to live the, you know, the day-to-day uncommitted, you know, in the wind type lifestyle, with maybe a subconscious understanding that whatever comes next is like it. And so, okay, Peter Pan, like, let's stay young. Let's stay in this, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see frame of mind. And so, yeah, like, when we started having conversations that were, okay, like, no, seriously, though, like, what are we doing? It was like, uh-oh, like, here we go, right? Everything you've avoided until now, everything you have dodged is in your face. There is no more one more year. There is no more I only come home in the summers. There is no more seasonal operation. Right? There is no more pulling the plug out of the wall and resetting once or twice a year. It's like, nope, you're in the game, and you've got what you got, and it's time to play it out for real. Intimidating and worth talking about and worth acknowledging, and it was, and we did. And you know, it's who do you want to be? What do you really want? Yeah, sure, you love messing around. Yeah, sure, you've enjoyed the highs and the lows. How about some consistency? How about some groundedness? How about some boring? How about some chill? How about less chasing it? Chasing it, the dragon, whatever, you know, whatever that is, whatever it is you're chasing. And okay, so what if we do move home? What is left? and what do I like about playing hockey, and what do I want to take with me? What have I learned? And it's just okay, yes, you were this person and you felt these ways, but how do you want to feel now, and what are you going to do now? And yeah, I think in come the value systems and long-term thinking and coming of age, and maybe acknowledging like, yeah, it was great, but there, for everything that was great about it, there were also tough parts. And well, what was tough about it? And so how do you try to forgive the super highs of like being able to go do things that you might have access to in a city versus at home? And so what are you willing to give up so that you can be everything that you can be where it makes most sense to you?
I think a big thing that we had to, for both of us, like something that maybe we had to dismantle, was the meaning that we had attached to the idea of coming home. And it's something that I have sometimes a hard time talking about, because I only feel this way for myself. Like, there was never a time where I looked at people who lived in Dryden or had stayed in Dryden in any kind of a negative way at all. Like, that was perfect for them. In a way I was kind of envious that they like knew what they wanted, and or at least from an outsider perspective felt that way. And so, but for me, like, the idea of moving home when 17, 18-year-old me was just like, man, I can't wait to get away from this place. I'm never coming back. I'm gonna go and be a success and whatever that meant. And so doing that, having an incredible experience for years and years and years, and then eventually returning home, like, in its own way, kind of felt like, I don't know, like failure, not achieving, not doing what I'd set out to do. It's kind of an ineffable feeling. I don't really know how to describe it, but there was something about the meaning, like I'd attached this meaning of negativity in some light to the idea of coming home. And so now when we're faced with this idea of it makes the most sense to be in Dryden, it's like, okay, yeah, but at the same time you've attached all this negative meaning to that. So, okay, that has to be addressed. And luckily we were able to talk lots about that, and we both had our own version of that. But so at least we could really figure that out together, agree that it's not a failure in any way, shape, or form. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to, let beliefs go, and see the abundance, see the opportunity. And so I think that was a big part of our process too.
To be able to say that up until now I have deemed returning home a failure to me. And so this is feeling really hard because of that, and I'm trying to let go of that so that I can not feel that way about being home. But so you've got the two parts of yourself that are kind of contending with each other. And it's hard. I think, there's not much to say about it other than it's hard and you have to go through it. At least I had to go through it, because those two things exist. Those two sides of yourself exist. The one that is not coming home until he's in the NHL, or whatever narrative is attached to that, right? The all or nothing mindset, just this idea, at least I for sure had this idea in my head that if I didn't make it, that I wasn't to like return. It's like the hero's journey, right? The hero like returns home with like the winnings and the like
The quest.
The quest. It's like, what do you come home like hanging your head and you're like, I tried, right? And it's like, you're really making it seem like there's a fucking parade waiting for you when you like, oh wow, you made it, like amazing. It's like, dude, like, let go of that. That is an idealized version of yourself that doesn't exist, and it's okay. And I think I've touched on that a couple times, and you know, it's something that I'm still coming to terms with, but I'm feeling way better about now, having excitement for what is new, right? For what we will build. It's kind of like, yeah, that was the old quest. What is the new quest? And because you have a new goal and a new aim and a new vision, then you don't have to be hung up and disappointed on the previous vision. And was it a failure? If I'm still keeping the goalpost at that like NHL or nothing level, then yeah, total bust. If I can take that goalpost away and see it for what it is, and the lessons learned and the connections made and the experiences had, and being able to share that with you, and wins all over the place.
I think something I'm reminded of, like even when you talk about the hero's journey or the idea of the quest, and if you reflect on, you know, classic, you know, Brothers Grimm or different stories of that follow that sort of archetype, the lesson at the end of all of those stories is that it was never about the thing, you know? And I think that's a really important perspective to always, always, always keep in mind, because if you are always focusing on the thing, evaluating yourself against the thing, you are placing your worth in the thing, and that's missing the point. Like, that is not who you are. And so, yeah, I think it's really important that we like check ourselves all the time in terms of like what we're focusing on, what we're placing meaning in, and staying really present and grateful, like to be able to observe our situation, you know, as it is versus the idealized, as you sort of put it. Because yeah, if you're only focused on that, you miss out on this. And that might be a cliche thing to say, but I think that message is super important. I don't know, like there's people always say, you know, it's not the whatever, it's the journey. What is that?
It's not the destination.
Yeah. Man, and that is like the most true. So I think, yeah, this time, this past summer, when we were making the decision to come home, and when all of these ideas of failure or these uncomfortable feelings of like, oh, I can't avoid anymore, like I have to face it all. Those were just important things for us to talk about and sit in and be like, well, have some like changes in terms of our frame of mind and a focus on abundance versus lack. You know, we talk about that all the time. It's so easy to just focus on the things that aren't working or the scarcity or whatever. And I know that like we're primed to do that. Like we have a negativity bias. We all do. But yeah, to just challenge that and be like, okay, what is good here? And if we can stay focused on that, it's gonna help us take that next step. You know?
And so we are taking that next step.
We did it.
We are home and we have a plan, and we are executing the plan, and we have values, and we are staying true to those values, and everything is like going extremely well.
Yeah, it's so cool how things just fall into, like, you just go with the flow, let life take you, try not to fight it, try not to force it, and then shit just comes, it works. It's so cool.
So what were your goals coming home?
Well, I wanted
goals and intentions, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted depth of relationships over quantity of relationships. I wanted to take all of the experience that I'd gained career-wise, working with like really big, cool brands on, big projects, and getting to use all of like that experience in service to the community here. So people who were starting businesses or looking to grow their business or just feeling a little stuck or disorganized or whatever, like how could I step in and help them? Like seeing our city thrive or the economic development of our city thrive is really important to me. Like, again, this like all-in mentality. It's like, if I'm gonna be here, I want to make this place great. I do have talents, I do have gifts to share. How can I use those to be in service? So career-wise, that was super important to me. So yeah, relationships, being in service, slowing down, having more balance, being able to prioritize our relationship, looking at starting our own fam. Yeah, I don't know, like simple stuff. You know, like I don't know, simple, pure things. I don't know, nothing fancy. But those were sort of my intentions for sure.
You have skills. You have skills that you're very humble about. You have an understanding of brand and design and things that you are very humble about. But you also know that you're very, very good at. And having had the work experience you've had, again, chasing it in your career, you decided at some point, I don't know if this is for me, at least in this way. I love working with these smaller hometown businesses. I don't know that I want to work for brands that are in beauty, and I don't want to be convincing people and women that they need products in order to feel good. I don't want to play on their insecurities in order to get them to buy this product. Right? And so your understanding of brand and psychology and your interest in psychology saw that at one point in your life you wanted to go in one direction, and then you decided to go the brand direction, the corporate direction. Now that you're home, you've gone back to maybe the fork in the road that you were once at, and you've gone a different direction. You have taken all those skills, you have gotten yourself into a position here at home that you can apply, and you are applying, and you are helping, and man, wow. You're doing exactly what you set out to do in a way that was by your terms, and are taking another stab at what was your initial intention when becoming so interested in that stuff. I'm letting you take it from here because I hyped you up, and now you get to take it and tell them what you're doing.
Like going to school?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for all that, by the way. Yeah, I originally, like when I was in high school, wanted to go away to school to become a therapist. And I did. Like, I applied to Huron University College, more specifically, which is within Western, to major in psychology, and that was going to be my path. And then, yeah, as I was pursuing that, I think there were two things going on. One, there was for me in my mind, like at that time, a stigma around the idea of being a therapist. I cared a lot about what people thought a lot at that time. And there were parts of me that felt like, oh, like, only, like, therapists are just unwell people seeing unwell people. Like, who would ever want to do that? Oh, our red light turned off. Our infrared therapy. I guess it's not infrared, but
Turn it back on.
you can if you want to. But yeah, there was like a weird stigma in my mind around being a therapist. I don't really know, but I was afraid of being judged for being a therapist. I can't really fully understand why. Oh, nice one. Ah,
Whoa!
strobe.
What one did you have it on?
Just 0.
What? Okay.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a super clear memory of this time, but I just remember pivoting where I was like, no, I don't want to be a therapist anymore, but I am very interested in human behavior. I am very interested in why we make the decisions that we make, and yeah, just what motivates us, like why are we the way that we are. I still had all of those questions, which were super applicable to business, particularly marketing. And so that's what I kind of pivoted into and ended up pursuing some additional education after that, which is what took me to London. And yeah, just doubled down on branding, which is incredibly psychological. And so that's what I spent my whole career doing, was branding and marketing, and yeah, just working in different facets of promotion and advertising. And when Kev was talking about the feeling of misalignment in me, I just was having trouble working in because I was working with a lot of like consumer packaged goods brands that, you've got to make sales, you've got to make money, but a lot of the brands, I just didn't necessarily feel very connected to. I wasn't stoked about this idea that I was just constantly trying to convince people to buy stuff, especially when I'm not a massive consumer. So I'm there, not anti-consumerism, but just not a big consumer, but convincing people that they need to be buying, it just felt like a weird misalignment for me. The sales piece I just struggled with. And that was like fine, I could deal with that, but there just reached a point where I just felt, yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. It didn't feel good anymore. I couldn't ignore those uncomfortable feelings anymore. So, yeah, I started to kind of pivot away from that stuff. And now it's interesting because in the position that I'm in now, I'm doing a lot more like mostly consulting. So I'm able to share all of this knowledge while there isn't that pressure on me. Like I might be working with this CPG brand, consumer packaged goods brand, but I'm not the one, responsible for driving sales or making that happen. And so, yeah, it's cool where again, I'm able to take all the skills and knowledge, but I'm not in it and in that feeling of discomfort the way that I maybe once was. But all to say, throughout my career, I've also done a lot of, I've been in a position of leadership where I've had teams that have worked with me, and I've done a lot of mentorship. And I've always just loved that. I loved coaching. I love helping people identify their strengths, figure out the areas where they can really excel or not, and then being able to just, thrive. And that in itself was very, could be kind of therapist-y at times, doing that kind of stuff, because you're talking to people again about their fears, their motivations, their goals. Okay, how do you achieve them? Let's figure it out together. Oof. Shaky.
Yeah, I noticed it was moving.
Well, whatever. But yeah, anyway, so I'd noticed this a lot over time. Again, this is all happening truly well over a decade. But I just sort of started to come to terms with the fact that it was the coaching, the leadership, the counseling, the consulting stuff is the stuff that I love the most. Okay, so how can I do that in business? And then also at the same time, how can I set future me up to do this stuff full-time guaranteed. Well, if I go ahead and get some schooling and actually learn how to properly be a therapist, then that could be my next career move. And so it's cool because my program is 2.5 years. It's totally online. And the majority of the people in my program are also working full-time jobs. So we're all kind of in the same boat. And it's cool because I don't have this pressure on myself to like become a therapist, even in 2.5 years. Like I might finish my degree and keep doing what I'm doing, but just with all of this new knowledge as to how to really work with people. But the hope is eventually that I will, when the time feels right, transition into a full-time role as a counselor, as a therapist, and be working with people on their mental health. And I specifically still want to work with leaders. I want to work with business people, and because your internal state as a business person reflects and impacts your business, immensely. So if I'm working with leaders on their own mental health, how can that still help them with their business? Like, I don't know. I don't really know what the future holds, but I just know going to school for this feels like super right. I'm so into it. I love everything I'm learning. It's all I like want to talk about. Sometimes I feel like I'm being annoying where I'm like, we learned this new concept in school and it's called this and whatever, but you entertain me. But yeah, it's so cool. So yeah, I don't know. That was pretty long-winded, but that's my little journey to where I'm at.
Well, again, I just love how you, at one point, knew what you were interested in and chose to go down a path that allowed you to excel while still being interested in that, but then coming to a point within that path where, I love part of this. I know what part of this I love a lot. And so I'm going to apply the part I love in a place that feels a little more personal rather than business-like and sales-oriented and whatever else.
And it feels like I'm really helping people. Like people come in and they have questions about, like, how do I make my business show up in the Google search, like, higher? And I'm like, okay, like, let's talk about SEO. Or, I'm having, like, troubles with my staff or my organizational structure. Like, it's a mess. I don't know, like, how to make this work. And I'm like, okay, let's look at that. I don't know. It just feels so cool that someone comes in with a problem and I'm able to just team up with them instantly and help them figure it out. Like that just feels super cool.
Yeah. We've taken a look at what we were doing, taken the most from what we were doing to decide what we were going to do. Right? I loved playing hockey because I loved being part of a team. All right, how do I place myself within a team? I loved seeing other people succeed. Okay, what can we do to encourage that? What can I do every day to make that happen, or to portray that, or to embody that myself, to see that actually comes through? And so it doesn't have to be on the ice. It doesn't have to be in the dressing room. It can be in the control room. It can be on a job site. Right? It can be wherever. I took that, and so of course now I'm at the mill, working at the Dryden mill, in operations in the bleach plant with Zach, Jan, and the boys. And yeah, I get to bring the best of what I brought to my hockey career into a new environment. And yeah. And then on top of that, I do get to do the personal best stuff, which is the little creative projects that come to mind that you can do for a short while, do for a long while. But so nothing has changed when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
We're prioritizing our family. Okay, well then let's be around our family. That means that Dryden is the only place to be. And so when you know exactly what you got out of your experiences, the good and the bad, with the intention of applying those values and then putting forward the good, it's been really, really nice being at home. And yeah, I felt, and we've talked about it before, where everything we've done in coming home is kind of bringing it back to, okay, let's work on me, us, our family, our community, and then outward, where, you know, at least if we are in Belfast, you know, we could very well be bypassing me, you, definitely our families, and then reaching out to that very broad audience, having not first gone through the layers to get that far outward. And so it's, I think of the previous version as like overreaching, right? I wasn't seeing my direct family members because I was seeing the people that were beyond that. I was servicing the people even further than that. I wasn't, you know, for many years of my career, wasn't even servicing myself. And so now it's like, okay, come home, focus on us, focus on our families. We've done that in interesting ways, and I feel more connected to my family members, your family, than ever before, just by the choice to make that a priority, and then the next steps that are consistently seeing them and making intentions known, and like saying I love you and saying I want to be there for you, and then now by this video that kicked off this whole video, we are getting involved in the community in interesting ways.
I think you and I are similar in the sense that, well, I know we're similar in this way, that we both have a strong desire to like make an impact. And I think when we are trying to make an impact out here, it doesn't work because it starts with you. And so I think in sort of our audit of like, what are we doing and how do we actually live into our values, and if one of our values is like being in service and making an impact, it starts with the self. And then from there, you know, maybe your intimate relationship with your spouse, and then maybe from there your family members, and then maybe from there your like, you know, communities around you. But you have to just bring it back to you, and then slowly everything else will pivot. And and I think that for a long time I was just so focused on like out here, and that was like cool and fun, and I don't have any regrets about that. Like, it was such an awesome time in my life, but I'm at a place where I've just kind of reevaluated, like, how can I really truly make an impact, and how really truly can I be in service in like a big real way, and who are the people that I want to serve. And yeah, it just makes the most sense to bring it back down and focus on us and have energy for our communities. And yeah, I just think a lot about that, about how do you make the biggest impact. And the truth is, like, you've got to start with you.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself first. And, you know, because if not, then you're just running around with empty batteries. And if you got empty batteries, then you're pouring from an empty cup. Or
seeking validation, trying to get your cup filled from like everything else rather than like knowing how to fill it yourself. Did I strike a nerve?
No, I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering, and I don't know if this will be edited or not, but I'm like, okay, like we're definitely caught up. We didn't determine an endpoint for this.
No.
And so, like, we are here, we are focusing on us, we are, like, excited about it. I think it's another episode to get into, like, the what we're doing in the community and how we're trying to get involved and what's next.
Oh,
and
for sure, yeah.
You know, that's a different thing. But yeah, so I think...
that's our coming home story.
That is our coming together story. That is our at home story. That is the individual and together previous to now story. Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. And, you know, when I shared this video, the repost like shared.
The MyTrail Campaign video?
Yeah, it has always been the people, never the place. And by choosing who I want to be around and who I'm willing to invest in and who I know are still a phone call away, being in Dryden is very easy when you've made those decisions and you turn 30 and have a coming of age moment or whatever happens.
Yeah, just makes sense.
We are here. We are excited. We've chosen our path. It wasn't, didn't happen overnight.
No.
Determining your values and determining your like direction is a loaded question, to say the least.
A lot of hard conversations and.
But if there's anything I can vouch for, it's that it's worth going through. And questions lead to answers. It also leads to more questions, and you got to answer those too. And ask the questions. Ask yourself the questions. Ask us the questions. Your feedback is always welcome. We are super excited to have been here with you this evening. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel. Give us ideas as to what to talk about next. And we are excited to see you again soon. Did it work? Were we shaking?